Space nerds. Oh, we've got news today. A lot of reconfirmations and confirmations of features that we've kind of cared about quite a bit. I'm talking about things like local reputation, dynamic missions a la Helldivers style, the ability to transfer vehicles and ships without having to be there, insurance information, onboarding for the new player experience, just a lot of clarification kind of information. So, with the help of Kitsune translating this from the original video and Hater posting this to his Discuss Whatever Discord, we're gonna go through all the bits, mostly the ones I find important and I think confirm stuff we've thought about before. Let's get into it. We're going to talk about raids and activities first. We talked about raids back in 2023 of CitizenCon, along with distribution centers, but since then I think we can all tell that's been put to the wayside. They haven't really been working too much on it, along with other things. But Erin Roberts did actually confirm, now again, this is just a transcription, that there will be raids coming to the game this year. We don't know what the level of that will be or where they will be hosted, but they are getting more and more towards that type of content, so not surprising. In terms of content they don't want to do, he also confirmed that they're moving away from events like Siege of Orison. Now, they used to call these dynamic events, then they switched to global events as, you know, it came to pass that they're not dynamic. But he confirmed for us today that they're actually working on more sandbox locations that have activities that can be triggered. Actual dynamic events, things that we wanted before. This is stuff like Ghost Hollow, Security Post Korea, or the newest Hathor location. Another location is coming in like this in Pyro. And I'm guessing we're just going to keep seeing more and more of them. Sort of a split between that theme park styled game and that sandbox styled game that you kind of go into somebody's theme park and start just like shoveling sand. Bad joke. We also are talking about location-based faction control. This is a really interesting one. Brings me back to my Far Cry days. You guys know the loop. You go into an outpost, you take it over, little cutscene plays, and now it's suddenly your outpost. Your friends are there. You can go get ammo and rest and sleep and play Twister. But this, I think, touches on that simulation part of the game a lot of people are concerned about. Can I go to a headhunter's outpost in Pyro, take it over, and watch Citizens for Prosperity come in and be there? And the answer seems to be yes. This is a long-term goal, but eventually you'll be able to take over and then defend bases for your own chosen faction. And on that same note, let's keep talking about factions. Reputation is a big thing with factions, something that I've been worried about lately after they talked about removing it for certain localities, but it is being reconfirmed here that reputation will exist for organizations of some sorts, and that reputation will still bounce against the other ones. This isn't something they put into question, but it's nice to see it reconfirmed here. If you're working for two different outlaw gangs, those gangs aren't lawless. Yeah, they're outlawed, but they're not no-lawed. They still care if you're out there murdering people in their territory, and they will have problems with that. So if one outlaw gang has ideals that the other outlaw gang doesn't, you might still clash because of that. So it's good to hear that this reputation is still going to be driving the game forward in the way that you move around the game and interact. He actually snuck in a little bit of a detail here that leads us into Death of a Spaceman about how you could change your appearance in the game to help reduce your reputation in certain places. Now, this might hit your positive reputation as well, but just the fact that you'll be able to walk into a cosmetics place, get changed up, and actually have that have some impact on your gameplay is interesting. It sounds like to some extent this will be affected by disguises as well. As we know with 4.2, reported in a recent video on this channel, you're going to be wearing disguises to get into certain security areas in order to sneak past folks. Who knows just how much this is going to go into reputation. Now, we talked a little bit about changing your appearance there and how it can be a bit of a reset. There's also Death of a Spaceman, the biggest reset in this game, something that really worries people. And it was talked about in this interview as well, alongside the medical gameplay that goes along with it and some of the more insurance focused stuff. One of the top things that they did talk about here in this interview is that medical will be having resources. It is confirmed again and again now, and we can, I think, rest assured that you're not going to be able to just respawn at a medical bed. You're not going to be able to get all the medical treatment you need at a bed. You're going to need to make sure you have the resources too. This is a lot like the resources that would be used for the life support component or power for the power plant. This means the treatment that you get, how much of it, what level it's at, and whether you can even respawn are going to be location and resource dependent, adding in some more friction to just having a NERSA in your ship and having unlimited respawns. They also then went on to confirm that the Death of a Spaceman dream of going through enough life cycles, let's say 10, 15, I don't know, but after you go through enough cycles without gaining any back or paying attention to your health or doing buffs to help extend your lifetime, you will maybe have to create a new character. That doesn't mean you're losing all of your stuff. This is mostly going to be a hit on your bank account, because this is a big money sink to keep you from dying, and on your reputation, because not only are you changing your appearance, you are kind of a different character. It'll be interesting knowing that we can create multiple characters for an account in this game, how this is going to work, and I'm sure there will be a lot of comments about how this is dumb and shouldn't be in the game. But it was brought back up again and reconfirmed, which I think is good for a feature that crucial. There was also a little bit of mention of medical beacons needing more importance, and that coming from the fact that we'd be able to rate people and give them actual ratings as we saw at CitizenCon this last year. Despite all this, it still doesn't seem like there is a very clear path of improvement in medical gameplay to make a ship like the Apollo seems like it makes sense to come out, but it might just be that they focus on the underlying systems to make sure that people can actually use this stuff reliably before they continue on. Back to activity and gameplay. This is a cool one. Remember Quantum, the simulation, now Starsim? We all still kind of wonder how much of that is in the game. So they actually confirmed with this that kind of like the dynamic events where you would go to a place like Hathor and be able to affect the area and start kind of an event for everybody else, you'll also be able to see the world around you changing based on the statistics and the state of the area. So if there are more pirates in an area, eventually that could launch a dynamic event to clear out those pirates. At the same time, if there's something that happens that brings more pirates to that area and the players or even the game doesn't respond with more security, then it could also spawn more missions and change the actual state of that system. We're talking kind of like the lost state, at least is what they're saying. One of the examples that's used is something like Nyx, which is going to suffer from Vanduul raids. If those Vanduul raids don't get fought back repeatedly, the system itself is supposed to get more and more dangerous around the star system. So Stanton might not always be as safe as it is now, depending on what we do and do not allow to happen. Maybe if we let Xenothreat come into Stanton more unchallenged, eventually Stanton becomes a less safe system. And these events are meant to also help shape the storyline as we continue through the game. Part of why they're saying that the current storyline is not something they want to keep repeating, because they want to just keep coming up with new interesting parts of the game every year that they can focus on and maybe drive us towards being more involved in. I think this is a really cool model. It sounds pretty hard to do, but as far as the underlying simulation for the game goes, if this does perform well, it's going to be really interesting to play in different star systems at different times. Let's talk about the new player experience. Something that was mentioned in this interview was the existence of mission arcs and story arcs and how much narrative is going to be involved in this game. And one thing that he clarified on, he being Erin, he said, similar to Luke Skywalker. You'd basically be starting somewhere small in a village maybe, doing some local missions, getting a ground vehicle, taking it to a large spaceport, and then getting your starting spaceship to take off. Kind of similar to No Man's Sky, and honestly I hope they give you different kinds of starts, one at a space station, one in a city, one out in the frontier, and you go through a different experience. But this on its own does sound like a much better time than just getting thrown into a hab and expected to know what to do. They got a lot of stuff to teach in this game. He also talks about how safe the starting location will be. I thought this would be Terra, but I hear it might be Hurston or at least the Stanton system. But it sounds like they're going to make sure it is very safe, hopefully through security and not armistice, so that new players can gradually open themselves up to the game. And this sounds like how they're going to do the story too. It's going to drive you through the different systems and professions over time with narrative background. A couple other small things that were mentioned during this interview. One was inventory management. They are indeed working on a new solution for that. Probably not coming this year, but we did see it was in the concept phase in the February monthly reports. Specifically for this, he mentioned that Squadron 42 was actually delaying the feature coming into Star Citizen, something that has proven true with quite a few things, and I think gives us some more insight into just how much work is going into Squadron to get it finished, and maybe how little work is going towards Star Citizen right now. We can all feel it. There was also talk about loading, cargo loading, and vehicle loading, something people are quite sick of, and I know a lot of folks don't want to manually load their stuff. Autoloading will continue to be a thing, and you'll be able to hire certain guild folks to help you at certain locations to do that, and you'll be able to get your vehicles loaded and transported to other places without having to be there. You just got to pay a fee, but this does mean it'll be a lot easier to eventually start getting stuff where you need it, while still having to deal with that planning ahead aspect of it. I mean, it's similar to what we do now with our claim timers, right? They said that most of the claims that are made in insurance, just because people don't have their ships there, so I imagine this is something they want to get in pretty quickly. They spoke about in-game radio in this interview, basically just being able to listen to radio in games, similar to a lot of other games have done. And we also heard about non-AUEC transactions, basically player bartering or trading through just the materials and commodities in the game. So you can trade your Lunchables for that slice of pizza somebody else got at lunch. Actually, Lunchables be pretty good. This bartering system, they say, will support a more physicalized and diverse form of trading, so we Probably we'll see more currencies than just the 2 scripts and the AUEC we have right now. And to wrap things up, we talked a little bit about insurance, stuff you can already see from CitizenCon last year, but reconfirmed that you'll be able to insure your ship or your ship and everything else on it for additional cost. This is something that worries a lot of people, especially because the item recovery system we have now will go away and you will start losing a lot more stuff. You'll be able to insure it, and that should help. More reliability, more money. Sounds more ideal than the real world. I don't know if it's ever going to go up on CIG's YouTube channel, but I'm glad that we at least have the translations to go over the info ourselves. Make sure to subscribe if you want to see more videos like this about the bigger topics in Star Citizen, and you can check out Space Tomato 2 for more daily news videos and opinions and reacts and podcasts and a whole bunch of stuff going on over there. Either way, I hope you learned something new in this one, and I'll catch you in the next.